it's a blessing that we have as Jewish people and as people in a free world that we're able to come together in solidarity and community and to mark the profound impact that the events that took place in Mumbai a few days ago has made really on the entire world and surely on the Jewish community. And the reason that here at Chabad we chose to host this event was because it really hit close to home that the Chabad Center in India and the Rabbi and Rebbitzin, Gavriel and Rivkah, were from those who were brutally murdered in this terrible tragedy. I'd like to thank all of the Jewish institutions in town and, for participating. The Federation of Santa Barbara, Congregation of B'nai Brit, Young Israel of Santa Barbara, Chabad UCSB, Santa Barbara Hillel, the Community Shul of Montecito in Santa Barbara, and the Information League. We all are, it's beautiful that everybody is working together to mark this important event, and we hope that at the end of tonight we will come away with some sort of positive. And that's why we're all here. We want to transform the darkness into light, and I'm sure it'll be mentioned by others, but it's obvious that we know that a little light can dispel a lot of darkness, and if you're in a dark room and you light one little match, the light spreads to every corner of the room. And the goal of tonight is that we should light that match, and maybe in the face of such terrible darkness, it would be more appropriate to light a torch or a couple matches. We should really come out of here with a very strong energy that we want to make a big difference in a good way. I'd like to also thank Mayor Roger Sevis of Goleta for joining us tonight, and I think we're going to get an opportunity to hear a few words from him soon. But we're going to begin with Mr. Ron Zonen, President of the Santa Barbara Jewish Federation, who's going to offer a few personal comments.
Rabbi, thank you very much. Rabbi Loshek, thank you as well. There is some more room inside for those of you that like to make your way in if that's possible to do. And we're all very appreciative of the strong showing of those who have come today. And those who are very tragic. Terrible event. I got back recently, just a week ago, having attended the United Jewish Communities General Assembly in Jerusalem. I was there for 2 weeks and traveled extensively through the northern part of the country. And along the way, ended up visiting a location right at the Lebanese border that, unbeknownst to us at the time that we went there, and having been told by actually the person who owned a restaurant in a Kurdish Jewish community up in the northern part of Israel, of the massacre in India. We're very grateful for all of you who are here today, this show of solidarity for the entire Jewish community in Santa Barbara, joined by Jewish communities throughout this country. Hopefully the result ultimately will be an end of violence against people who happen to be Jewish, who adhere to the tenets of the Jewish faith, and who are at the moment being victimized indiscriminately across the world. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Zonen. The amount of murdered in this tragedy, the last count I was able to get was 171, and there are 171 candles outside. As if anybody did not get a chance to light one, you can do so on the way out. I think it's important that we recognize that as personally as we take this is really a much bigger issue, and at the same time we're mourning the loss of our own Jews and Israeli citizens that were unfortunately targeted in this massacre. We also remember all of those that were brutally murdered and were together with their families, and also we pray for the recovery of the hundreds that were injured. We're going to now hear a few words from our mayor in Goleta, Mayor Sevis, and we thank him very much for taking time out of his busy day today to come. Mayor Sevis.
Thank you, Reverend. As I thought about what I wanted to say today, I had to think about someone who I found guidance in. A man that married my wife and I 32 years ago. Father Richard Cordano. And I'd like to read something from his book, and it's from his selected writings, and it's called May We Become Candles. May our task in life be to enlighten an otherwise darkened and threatened world. May it not be exchanged for demanding research. May self-righteousness not be concealed under a pile of quotations from sacred books, not subject to cultural and historical criticism. Yes, it is better to light one candle than to curse the darkness. May we become candles that burn from within enlightened and compassionate hearts and shed the warmth of love to all who are children of the same gracious God. Thank you for inviting me tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. It says in the program, for those of you who have the program, there's a quote from the Talmud, Tractate of Avot, that the world stands on three things: Torah study, prayer, and kind deeds. And we're going to attempt to do all three of these. We're going to have a word of Torah from Rabbi Loshak soon. We're going to all join in prayer momentarily. And we will also commit to doing some more kind deeds at the end of the evening. So we'd like to now, for those of you who have the program, you can turn to page 5. For those of you who don't have a program, you can look on if somebody does. There may be a few more in the bookcase right there. I don't know if there's any left there. And Rabbi Mendel from Chabad UCSB is going to lead us in the reciting of the Psalms, chapter 20, and then also in the prayer, God of Compassion, which is on page 6, which is traditionally recited in memory of those who are departed.
For the conductor, a song of David. May the Lord answer you on the day of distress. May the name of God be glorified. May He send you aid, take return. May He remember all your meal offerings, and may He accept your fabric offerings forever. May He give you as your heart desires, and may He fill all your counsel. Let us sing praise for your salvation. Let us assemble in the name of our God. May the Lord fulfill all your requests. Now I know that the Lord's faith is anointed. He answered him from his holy heavens. The mighty acts of salvation from his right hand. He trusts in chariots and leads in horses. But we need to mention you, Lord our God. We kneel and fall, but we rise in strength. O Lord, save us, and may He answer us on the day of call. Terror in Mumbai, Hashem came at the Wamom, she all the holy Lamom, Ma'urish not Vusidawako, Miyawan, as a Koras and Ishmasom, Megane. Yastireim, Nesif Sekinafah Beleyomim, Vitzroi, Vitzroi Rachayim, Elas Nishemosom, Adonai, Nakalosom, Yonuchu, Mishalom.
Now some words of Torah from Rabbi Luke.
Those that know me and have heard me speak before, you know that I never speak from notes. Maybe it's been able to prepare, but whatever the case may be, today I have made myself some notes. And the reason why I've made these notes is because I want to make sure I don't forget anything. I want to make sure that I'm able to say what I want to say, and therefore I'm going to use these notes as a reminder to keep me on track to what I want to say. Before I go any further, obviously we're here for a very tragic reason, to pay our respects to all those who, for lack of a better word, were massacred this past week in Mumbai, India. And obviously those who were killed and injured are from many, many different nationalities. And amongst those also were people who were injured, people who lost their loved ones. And in some respects this is, in some ways, another 9/11. And obviously we wish all those that were injured in this terrible event, they should have a speedy recovery. And may they know no more suffering and pain. I also think it's extremely important to note when we heard, we meaning myself, when I heard what was going on in India. I don't have a TV, but I do have a computer and internet. And so there went my sleep for the next 3 days. And as I was trying to do some work, I had one eye on what was going on over there. And it became very, very clear that this Nariman house was the Chabad house in Mumbai. And my heart just broke apart. And even though we hear, unfortunately, of tragedies on a constant, ongoing basis, and we sometimes become immune to tragedies, unfortunately. Maybe that's the way God made us, that we should be able to continue. However, when a tragedy becomes personal, then it takes on a totally different meaning. And ever since Wednesday night, I and my wife and my children were praying that a miracle would occur. And as I'm watching my computer, and they announced on CNN, IBN over there, the little girl came out of the house. I knew there was not a little girl, but it was little Meshala. He was yet to have his hair cut because he just celebrated his second birthday this past Shabbos. And that birthday will also mark, unfortunately, the anniversary of the murdering of his parents. And then I heard the unbelievable miracle that his nanny, his housekeeper, Sandra Samuel, literally risked her life to save this little boy. To say this was a miracle is beyond description. It's not a miracle, it's beyond a miracle. The report that she gave was that when these murderers came into the Chabad house, she slammed the door of the pantry in their face. And they thought that there was another door going out, and so they went on to the rest of their terror. In reality, there was no other door, and she was in there with the cook. And she's there all night, petrified, hearing gunshots and bombs going off, and God knows what else. And then the morning came, and she heard little Meshla crying. And she turns to the cook, and she says, "That's Meshi crying. I'm going to go get him upstairs." And he said, "You're out of your mind." And she said, "I need to get him." And sometimes in times of unbelievable stress, logic goes out the door. And we work on love, and we work on some kind of adrenaline, which we don't know where it comes from. And she literally risked her life, went up those stairs, saw the murdered mother. Meshla had blood on him. He was crying, calling out for his mother. She quickly swept him up in her hands, and by some miracle was not seen, and walked out with the cook to safety. The only person that survived that massacre in that house was little Meshla. And I think of this, and I read the various accounts of what happened. I read that his mother was actually expecting another child. She was 5 months pregnant. And I stand here as a rabbi. And I stand here as a father. I stand here as a husband and as a human being. And I say, why? And then I say to myself, why is not the question that we need to ask. The funerals were Thursday night. Our time, Thursday early morning, Thursday afternoon in Israel. I got up at 2:30 in the morning to watch the funerals online. And I watched the thousands and thousands of people who had come from all over to attend these funerals. Many of my colleagues, we had made a number of raffles. We pitched in some money so people could go and represent the various Chabad rabbis from around the world. And many of them went. Those that won the raffle were able to get there on time for the funeral. And each time I read another story, and each time I remind myself of this terrible event, new tears come up in my eyes. Yes, I'm a rabbi, but that doesn't mean that I'm not a human being and I don't have feelings. And this hit home because Gavriel and Rivkah are Chabad rabbis, I can't say just like myself, because they gave the ultimate sacrifice. But we will soon see a video which was made for this event, which shows their unbelievable self-sacrifice. My wife and I and my family have the privilege to be Chabad rabbis. We live in a beautiful town. And we have all the creature comforts you can think of, and we often take those things for granted. Rabbi Holtzberg, Gavriel, Gabi and his wife, Rivkah, as you will see, had none of these creature comforts, or very few of them. There was only one reason why they were there. They were there to reach out to other Jews. As you'll see in this video, their selflessness, their self-sacrifice was beyond description. And this is what I and my wife and my children, we strive for. This kind of selflessness. Obviously, maybe we succeed in some small measure, and thank God we're here to tell the stories. But more importantly, when I heard what happened, and I remember Friday morning, one of my children was out of town, as most of my children are. He sends me a text message, because God forbid people should use telephones anymore. He sends me a text message early in the morning, and he says to me, "What is the news?" And I was in shul already, and with great effort, I punched into my cell phone the traditional blessing that one makes when one hears a terrible news. Baruch Daim Emes. Blessed is the judge of truth. And it was difficult for me to see the letters on my telephone because the tears were streaming down my face. It was difficult for me to repeat the story for the very same reason. We are not allowed to ask the question why. Because when we ask the question why, we are assuming there is an answer. There is no answer to this terrible tragedy that we witnessed. And there can be no answer to this terrible tragedy. In our Holy Torah, when Aaron the high priest lost his 2 sons, and Moses, his brother, tried to comfort him, Vayidoim Aaron. Aaron was quiet. Why was he quiet? Commentaries explain to us, because there is no answer. When we have pure, unadulterated evil, there is no answer. And people, the other people that died in a Chabad house, there was a woman who was going to go on Monday to Israel. She was just touring. The other lady was visiting her daughter and grandchildren in India. The 2 rabbis who were there to check out kosher food factories in India. Why did they come to the Chabad house? To pay their respects to Gavriel and Rivkah, to thank them for feeding them and giving them a place to pray. Talk about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. These people left families. They died for only one reason. This wasn't a random attack. It's quite clear that this was a very plain and targeted attack. And according to what I'm reading now, these terrorists actually pretended to be something else and took over the hospitality of the Holtzbergs in their Chabad house and ate their food. To say this is evil is an understatement. So we are not allowed to ask the question why. We are not allowed to ask the question why did 170 something, and I'm saying that there's some things we don't know exactly how many people died, each person is a whole world. Why did those people have to die? We are not allowed to ask that question. We are not allowed to ask the question, why did God not protect these people? Because the moment we ask that question, we are going to say there is an answer, and there is no answer. There can be no answer. So, we are not allowed to ask the question, why? So what do we do? What we do is, and as I was watching the funerals, all the different rabbis, many of them longer beards than mine, they all said the same thing. When we mention the name of somebody that was murdered tragically, murder is obviously tragic, but someone was murdered, the Jewish expression we use is Hashem Yimkom Domom. May God avenge their blood. Their blood was spilled, but we don't go, I mean, the legal system obviously, but we as individuals do not go avenging their blood. That's not our task. We don't pretend it didn't happen, God forbid. We don't allow the people to continue. We need to judge them in the fullest extent of the law. and do whatever we can to make sure that they get the justice that they so richly deserve. But our goal is not to focus on the past and not to ask the question why. Our goal is to take this as an opportunity to do good. Gavriel and Rivkah Holtzberg lived their lives to help others. And we should take that lesson, and that their death should not be meaningless, that we should use this as a springboard to go further. I mentioned on Shabbos that the word in Hebrew for comfort is nechama. And as a matter of fact, one of my children, one of my daughters, is named Nechama. And the reason my wife and I named her Nechama, one of the reasons is because she was the first child that was born to us after my father, may he rest in peace, passed away. So we couldn't name her after my father, so we came up with something different. So the word Nechama means comfort. However, if we look in the Torah and the Bible, and we look there, and we see that the first time the verb of Nechama, of comfort, is used, it says, V'yinochem Hashem, God, and it uses that word seemingly called comfort, when God looked at the evil in this world, at the end of the first Torah portion, Bereshis. He looked at the evil in this world, and then said that God found comfort in the fact that Noah was around. But it said, V'yinochem Hashem, God reconsidered the fact that He made mankind. We're not going to discuss how can God reconsider anything. But we see that the word Nechama comes really from the word to reconsider, to take a different perspective. There's an expression in the Bible, in Tanakh, Smol deicha v'yamin techabkeni, the left pushes away and the right draws close, the right hand. And I heard an explanation recently that when you push with one hand and pull with the other hand, what do you do to that person? You turn them around. V'yinochem, we need to be comforted. How can we be comforted? By having a new perspective. Not by looking to ask why, because as I said already, there is no why. But there is a new perspective that we can have. And that new perspective is that if each and every one of us, in the back of the programs we have this little pledge card, if each and every one of us takes upon themselves to do one more mitzvah, one more commandment from God, we will bring light. As my son mentioned, a little bit of light pushes away a lot of darkness. We have a lot of darkness. We need a little bit more than a little bit of light. We need collectively to take upon ourselves to learn to take this new perspective and to bring light into this world. And if each of us brings that light into the world, then the V'yinochem will have the true comfort. We will see the perspective and we will never understand why, but we will be consoled that whatever happened, which we can never understand why, at least we're able to learn something positive. And that's why during the funerals, all the rabbis, including the father of Rivki, asked people, do one more good deed. That first Shabbos, after he found out his daughter was massacred, he asked the ladies, please, my daughter can no longer light the Shabbos candles, but you can. Light it for her, light it for God, bring light into this world, and thereby we can merit the revelation of Mashiach, and then we'll have true world peace. Thank you.
Gavriel Noah Holtzberg was born in Israel in 1979. At 9 years old, he moved to New York with his family. At first, it was awkward, but it didn't take long for the shy, Hebrew-speaking kid to make his mark. In 5th grade, he won a study competition, learning 50 double-sided pages of Talmud by heart. On another occasion, he won an international learning contest, flying to Israel for the final round, which he won. Living in New York gave him the opportunity to meet with and learn from the Rebbe. Blessed with a prodigious mind, he
Those of you who were privileged enough to get a program, on the back there is a mitzvah card. You can fill it out and leave it here, or you can go online. There's a link on the bottom. For those of you who don't have the program, if you go to sbchabad.org, and the next day or two it'll still be on our homepage, and on the top it says, "What can I do?" And you click on that button and you can pledge a mitzvah. There's a few suggestions, or you can choose the mitzvah of your choice, and all of these mitzvahs are being logged with the names of the mitzvah donors, and they're being forwarded to the families of the victims to hopefully provide some measure of comfort and support that their sacrifice of their family members is promoting more goodness in the world. Here in Barbara, we are encouraging everybody to light, the Jewish women, which should light Shabbat candles. On your way out, please pick up one of our Friday light kits around the table outside. And if you already light Shabbat candles, take one and share it with somebody else who doesn't yet. We also are looking forward towards Hanukkah, another opportunity to light and to shed more light. And again, we're asking everybody to get a hold of a Hanukkah menorah, light the menorah, find someone who doesn't yet have a menorah, and share this beautiful mitzvah with them. And we're also starting a new campaign. It's going to be called the Gavriel Rivkah Holtzberg Mezuzah campaign. This is something that we were ready to start anyways, in response to our own personal tragedy of the fires that just took place. The mezuzah, the special scroll that we place on our doorways, is a way of ensuring and promoting divine protection for the inhabitants of the house, both inside the home and outside the home. And we are now going to name this campaign after Gavriel Rivkah Holtzberg. And soon you should receive some type of documentation or pamphlet in this regard. But we are going to, God willing, increase the number of mezuzot on the doorways of our homes. And those of us who already have mezuzot, we're going to make sure that they're inspected regularly to ensure that they're still up to standard. And God willing, all of these good deeds should bring about God's blessings. It says in the prayer in the Amidah, Barchenu Aviru Kulanu Ka'echad, that God blesses us all as one. And one of the ways to read this is that when we come together, this brings down the divine blessing. And surely such a beautiful gathering tonight should surely bring down God's blessings of peace for us here and for all the Jews worldwide and for all people worldwide, that we should be free of such tragedies and such useless carnage and disasters that don't bring out any positive, and we should just be filled with peace. On the last page, the second to last page of the program, we have the words of the time-honored prayer for peace, asking that God should truly bestow upon us this beautiful blessing. We'll sing this together, and afterwards everybody's invited once again to light the candles outside, to fill out your mitzvah pledge. And also we have a member of our community, Vicky Litter, whose mother actually spent some time in India with the Holtzbergs, and she has some beautiful pictures of the family and their Chabad house and what they were doing, and they're over here as well if people would like to look through those. Oseh Shalom Biroma